Hello world and welcome back to another video. In this one we're going to take a look at installing Ubuntu on VirtualBox. VirtualBox is pretty much a freeware version of VMware. Pretty much virtualization software that's for free. So it's kind of ideal if you are restricted in your fundings for your project or operation. So we'll start off by looking to download the VirtualBox here. So inside your browser, just go ahead and search for VirtualBox. And usually it'll look like this actually. And actually to isolate, search a little more. There we go. On this landing page, you pretty much select the one that is pertains to your OS that you're running it on. My example, doing it on Windows PCs, so I'm gonna download this one. And while we do that, it may be a good idea to, if you haven't already from the previous video, just go on ahead and look for the Ubuntu ISO or image. So just gonna Google download Ubuntu, make our way to the desktop to go ahead and download it there. And this download is going to be kind of longer, so you may want to get that started if you haven't already. While it downloads, we can run the installation for the VirtualBox here. I'll let that do its thing. All right, once it completes, go ahead and click on finish. And it should open it up by default here. Let's see, there we are. This was from a previous trial there, okay. So now under machine, we can add a new virtual machine. And I'll call this one the Ubuntu version, and I include that it's a raw based image. Select that. It is Ubuntu. Okay, click on next. I usually like to give this a little bit decent amount of RAM there. Okay, virtual disk. I usually like to make it VMDK since that's recognized by VMware as well. Reason why I'll do that is just in case in the event where I have to migrate or transfer the image to another computer or another virtualization software, it'll have an easy time to recognize it. So it's pretty good for data redundancy. Do fixed sized. Give this about 200 gigs. And we'll go ahead and let that do its thing. This will take about, depending on your operating system and your computer and your hardware specs, could take anywhere between 24 to 30 minutes. So I don't want to bore you with that, so I'm going to go ahead and pause the video right here while this installs. And once it's done, it should pop up with the GUI interface here with the Ubuntu listed right below it. And I'll see you back here real soon. Alright, now that the image has completed, I'd just like to make a couple of changes right here. And one of them is making the network card be bridged. Alright. And I usually like to mount the ISO inside the CD drive. Okay. Let's see. Usually, you have to reference the ISO of Ubuntu that you downloaded. So you would just choose a disk, look for the download of the Ubuntu ISO. Go ahead and open that up. And now we can just reset the machine. And it should be able to pick it up here. Select the option with graphics, just makes things a little bit easier. And while that goes, I'll pause the video and we'll return once it's all ready to get set up. Okay, we'll just go through and install everything. This should be very similar to the VMware tutorial that I did. I'll just select the same configurations from before. And we'll go ahead and install. Okay, and click continue. And just give it any generic name. And we'll let it install. I'll pause the video right here and we'll return once it's all good to go. And once it's done, you can go ahead and restart the machine. Press enter there. And then once it restarts, we can go ahead and log in. There we go, and this should all look pretty familiar. No. And we can just close that out for now. And by default, it looks like they kind of have this type of presentation view here. Looks like it's pretty small. Alrighty, so what I'm going to do is just shut this down for now since I want to preserve it as a base image. It's raw form. And then what I'll do here is clone it just like I did before. And I'll pause it here while it does that. And after the clone is complete, I'll go ahead and fire this one up. And we can wrap up and clean up the installation. Once it fires up too, unlike VMware, it doesn't nicely add all the drivers and make everything install completely there. So that way you can copy and paste and have the video drivers and whatnot. I think it's called installing the guest editions or something like that. Alright, let's go ahead and log in here. So for the instructions, it pretty much says to follow this here. And I'll put this in the descriptions. And usually all of this can change over the course of time. But let's see. Do this kind of. Alrighty, next one. Always that last hurdle that takes the longest here. Alright. Another thing I noticed too is when cloning the images with VirtualBox versus VMware takes exceptionally longer. So I'm continuing to follow this documentation here. Apparently this is some type of kernel that needs to be installed in order to get this guest edition thing working. Okay, now that that is done, we're supposed to do this. So I guess it detects it. Okay, now it says to do this. Yeah. And I just have to let this run. Okay, so it looked like it finished. Right, so looks like it worked. Yeah, don't really like that. Guess that's kind of what we have to work with here. Let's take a look. Looks like mine is actually set to 13. 78. There we go. All right. So now that we installed that, we'll work on the Elrond erdpy and see if we can get this going. So pretty much just be following this. Same like before. Okay, and next one, we'll follow this. I'll just go back to my home directory and clear screen to clear that up. Try to avoid confusion. And I think we have to install Python. Okay, that looks good. So let's see if this works. And while that does that, I'll control F here and look for Visual Studio Code. Should be available in your shell. Furthermore, after restarting your session, you can use source to activate the Python virtual and continue your erdpy. Maybe that's what I missed the last time. We'll check it out. Okay, look like code finished as well, so I'm just going to do this. Okay. Nope. Interesting. We'll fire this up then and do our install here for the Elrond SDK IDE. While that does that, I'll look for Discord. So that'll look like you finished installing. Let's create a Elrond work environment here. Okay, we're in Elrond devs. Okay. Control Shift P. Elrond. Set up workspace. Let's see if the terminal works here. erdpy. That one works. But let's see if I open them. Nope. Yeah, this is very interesting. Maybe it just requires a reboot, but it works inside the terminal. Inside Visual Studio Code. Maybe I just have to reboot the computer again. And I'll set that up later. Alright, let's see if rebooting will clear that up. So the settings didn't retain the display. Okay, let's see if this works. Excellent. Okay, so we got it installed. Let's test out Visual Studio. Okay. Looks good. And it's populating our smart contracts here, so that's good. Looks like it's setting up Rust and everything for us too. Excellent. Looks good. Okay. Looks like it set everything up for us too. Very good. So now we pretty much walk through installing the erdpy and the Visual Studio Code with the Elrond IDE inside Ubuntu on VirtualBox, which is freeware. So now we can pretty much get started and get coding and developing stuff on the Elrond blockchain. In the next video, sometime probably I'll go ahead and walk through setting up for a Mac. I would have to pretty much wipe my Mac real quick, get it back to the prior state before installing everything again, so I can recapture that with you. I hope you found this useful, and if you have any questions or any type of tips or anything like that, please feel free to leave it in the comments below, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Goodbye.